Francis here with us, beautiful Francis. And nobody can guess what her age is. She looks like 18 all the time.
Oh, thank you. I wish.
Beautiful. And today she is joining us, and Francis being an awesome, awesome inspiration for me because she's an investor herself. She owns apartment buildings and etc. But she also runs a nail salon business, which it's really fascinating me how things always work there. And she has a beautiful family with kids. So all these are like a very interesting things combination. So very glad to have Francis on the show today.
Hi, Elisa. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And then so Francis, we just gonna kind of dive in a little bit and get to know your story a little bit more. And we usually like to kind of start with like your childhood. Sometimes a little sensitive topic for people, but tell us like how did Francis start?
Yeah, so my parents are, immigrants from Vietnam, and so
Yeah,
they always instilled a hard work ethic in our family. And so, like the typical Asian parents, they wanted me to be a doctor, and
yeah,
then I decided that I really wanted to go into public health, and went to grad school at the University of Washington at the School of Public Health and Community Medicine. Got my
yeah.
master's degree. And then I was kind of a rich college student because I had a stipend during college, and I saved up all of my stipend money and used it
Yeah.
for the first down payment of my house. And
What
so I
is a
got my
stipend?
a
Is it?
stipend, like a scholarship. So
Oh,
it was like a
cool.
scholarship that I had, and really was supposed to be using for tuition and books and things like that. And so I paid what I needed to pay, and I kind of lived
Yeah.
below my means as well. Saved a lot of my money, and I think out of grad school I had maybe $15,000. And
Wow.
then I started working as well, and just put that money in together and did a down payment on my parents' house. They were selling
Oh,
that house. And so
oh,
I bought
wow.
that house. And initially, when I bought it, I had thought, I love to cook, I love to have my own house. But then I started
Yeah.
thinking about this real estate side as well,
Yeah.
and that I can use that to grow and grow my wealth with that. So
That's
from
awesome.
there, I started buying more properties, bought rental income. And then the recession hit. It was during
Yeah.
the 2007, 2008 time. So I really learned a lot from that as well.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit of my background of how I got started with
Nice.
real estate.
So tell me a little bit about the stipend. You're supposed to use it for your books and all that stuff. So how did you like pay for these things then? Like what were you doing at the time?
Yeah, so so I would get financial aid as well, which was a loan,
Uh-huh.
and then I had scholarships as well, and I tried to apply for any scholarships I had to.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our school systems don't really talk about financial aspects of things,
Yeah.
but I knew to save my money. I didn't spend frivolously or anything like that.
Yeah.
I took a car loan out, but then I made sure that I had a low interest rate, getting a co-signer with that as
Huh.
well. And I
Yeah.
just, I was really smart with my
Wow.
money. I didn't
That is very
go
smart.
out and go to parties or shopping or anything like that. I really just focused on my studies, and then trying to save my money up for investments.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now to qualify for these loans, like, did you do a lot of research into this? Let's kind of like rewind a little bit more, like before you even get to college. There sounds like for average, let's say since you're 18, for an average 13-year-old going to college,
I wish.
nobody's actually thinking about like, oh, there's all these financial aid that's out there. We can maybe use it as a source to bootstrap our business and etc.
Right.
How did you even like get that idea? Like, who made like the biggest impact in your mind? Maybe it's a couple people that allows you kind of think a little bit more creatively.
Yeah. I think it
Yeah,
was maybe because of my upbringing and knowing that my parents didn't really have a lot of money. So I knew
yeah,
that I had to, I couldn't depend on my parents to pay for my college. So I knew that it was
yeah,
all on me. And instead
yeah,
of me just borrowing a lot of money and get in debt. I knew that there was free money out there. So I would
Yeah.
apply to scholarships, academic scholarships. I did
Yeah.
really well academically when I was younger. And so
Yeah.
I would work with the counselor. I would have those connections and network even at a young age. Really, I
Yeah.
mean, I have a really adult mindset when I was young, but I was really close to my counselors and
Yeah.
talking to them about like, what are the scholarships that are out there that I can apply for? And
Yeah.
just put that effort in there, and it was free money, which helped me pay for my college tuition.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. This is like a very unique aspect. I mean, we have a couple interviewers here already. Nobody have ever told me about that, you know.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. So, tell me a little bit about your parents. Like, growing up, you said you had a pretty hardship family, you know. What were they doing? Like, what is their career?
Yeah, so my parents, they actually immigrated from Vietnam. They were the first in their country or in their neighborhood, their area to escape. And,
Mm,
they didn't have much. They came here, they got sponsored by a
yeah.
Mormon church. So I'm actually
Okay.
Mormon. I grew up Mormon.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems very odd, but I grew up
Yeah.
Mormon, and they really had nothing, and so as growing up, they were janitors, and I would
Yeah.
help them sometimes work with them, and I just knew the
Wow.
struggles that they had, and so I think
Yeah.
because of that, it influenced me that I have to succeed. Like there was no
Yeah.
option. The only
Yeah.
option was to succeed, and so I've always, at a young age, always had really good grades, always. Tried to do my best and knew that
Yeah.
I wanted to have a college degree and make money when I was older.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. So clearly they installed some really awesome work ethic in you. And so when you're going to the college, you're being very resourceful, finding all these different financial packages.
Yeah.
What were you doing? But you still have to pay for your books and all that sort of stuff. Tell us, did you have a job, like a secondary job that kind of helps you with that?
So when I was in college, I had a stipend, and I pretty much, after I paid for my tuition and my books and so forth, I lived below my means, and I pretty much just saved every penny. I had scholarships as well. I also worked during the summertime and just kind of saved up all my money, and
Yeah.
knew that I wanted to invest in properties. I wasn't one of those type of people that spent money or anything like that. So I had
Yeah.
a good chunk of change.
So where did you live? When you say you saved out the pennies, like give us some, stories. Like, do you have stories like where you were
Yeah.
like, shower at the college or something? Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, not that bad, but, with Asian families, a lot of us just live with our parents still.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to pay for rent or anything like that. My parents, I mean, we had an option. I could have lived closer to the dorms and lived on campus, but I decided that I was going to stay home and live with my parents and save up all my money. And I never really went out that much
Yeah.
either. I would just cook at home. It was so much more affordable to cook at home.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I loved ramen too. So ramen was, lunchtime food for me. I didn't have to spend so much money. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
mhm.
And so from all these savings and etc. So now you have a stimulus, sorry, the
Mhm.
stipend, right? And then you kind of save this up, but you're also working summer job to essentially
Right.
pay for tuitions and all that sort of stuff. So that's the part I want to kind of highlight. How many hours would you say that you were kind of working in the college time, including like your work for school and etc. Just kind of give us an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, usually I would work on like Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I never did it during the weekdays. If
Uh-huh.
it was only for like a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And most of my number one priority was schoolwork. So I
Hmm.
had to get everything done during the week and then free up my weekend so that I can work.
Yeah.
So I never, and then during like exams, midterms, and so forth, I would tell my boss like I couldn't work during those times and try to change my
Yeah.
shifts and do it after exams were over, because I knew that, to be successful, I had to get my college degree and get this high W-2 job. And I think part of that helped me as well, because I was able to make a high salary right after grad
Hmm.
school.
What
And I
were
was
you
able to
doing?
save that money. So my first job was in safety, health, and wellness. I
Hmm.
was a safety, health, and wellness specialist for the city. And
Okay.
it was a really high paying job compared to what other people are getting paid for, like business degrees and so forth. So
Yeah, gotcha. How much would it be? Like, would you want to share? Like at the
yeah,
obviously a couple years ago for the dollar
so
amount. Yeah.
this was back in 2005, and I
Yeah.
was making about close to $30 an hour. So about
Uh-huh.
65 grand a year.
Yeah.
And that was pretty
Yeah.
good, as, coming out of college and making this
Yeah.
amount of money. And even after graduating and making that money, I was still living at home. I lived at
Yeah.
home for a good um, amount of time and saved up all my money so that I
Yeah.
can put that into my investment property.
Gotcha. So it's kind of essentially a version of house hacking, per
Right,
se,
right.
with your
Yeah.
parents that
With
you
my
don't have to pay
parents.
rent to,
Right.
financially. Were you paying rent to them? Or
I
were
would.
you?
I mean, at the time, when I had a job, I paid for utilities and so
Yeah.
forth to
Okay.
help my parents out. But they didn't expect anything. They
Hmm.
wanted me to save my money
And be
versus
successful.
spending it, going out, living, and paying rent for that. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
mhm.
Asian parents are kind of giving that way.
Right.
It all different now with cultural differences over there. So when did you? So that was a job that you got, like you got multiple jobs and you got job
Hmm.
now out of the college.
Hmm.
When did that first like spark happen? When you're like, I wanted more extra freedom, or I want to be financially free. How did this all kind of got into your head?
I always think about this, and it was when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like, that was a turning point for me.
Yeah,
I don't know, I don't remember exactly how I heard about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but I remember picking up the book, and
yeah,
everything I read, it was like a light bulb went off my head. Like, I was like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, this is what I want. And I
yeah.
knew I love what I do, because I'm in public health. So I want to
Hmm.
save lives and all that. And I was very passionate about it. But I knew
Yeah,
that, that was not the lifestyle I wanted either. I didn't want my livelihood to be, on somebody else's shoulders, where, the
hmm,
next day I could get fired or a job can get eliminated. We hear right now about people getting furloughed and layoffs. And
yeah,
really, when I read about this, I knew, like, this is what I want. I want financial freedom. I love houses. I knew that that's what I wanted to invest in. And I
hmm,
knew that I wanted my money to still grow while I was sleeping. And that was the main
yeah,
thing. I didn't want to work and be held to this leash that I had to work. I want to
yeah,
work because I'm passionate about working, not because I have to work to make a
yeah.
living.
Gotcha. So it's not like, unlike some of our audience, it's not like you hate your job to guts. You really love doing that,
Right,
but it's just the mere fact of like there's a security,
right,
is what kind of got you down this path with security.
right.
And in terms of like setting the goals and etc. How did you start doing that? Like now you read a book. Oftentimes
Right.
when we read a book, we didn't do anything about it. But like, what are some first steps, things that you kind of did immediately to kind of adjust your life? Now you have the knowledge, you can't be blind to it anymore. Like, what are the
Right.
some first things that you did there?
So, when I was younger, um, I knew that I wanted to get into real estate. So the first thing I did was to learn more about real estate. So I went and
Mm-hmm.
got my real estate license. So
Uh-huh.
I'm still a licensed agent, even though
Yeah,
I'm not an agent, but I use that for my own investments and I help
yeah,
family and friends and all that. But I knew that in order for me to know about the business better, I had to jump into that business and learn as much as I could, read as much books as I could. Fortunately, right now we are so lucky because we have Facebook, we have meetups, we have all of
Right.
these things. But back then, that was back in 2005, 2006. I had nothing. It was just books
Yeah.
and just networking with other agents and so forth.
Hmm.
But now you have this whole investor community. You know who are investors, and you can talk to them. You can see what are their pitfalls, how do they succeed, and their lessons learned. So it's been really
Yeah.
helpful. But the way I did it when I was younger was just kind of learning as much as I could, and connecting with people that was
Mhm.
there, and I want to eventually be there with them. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And then now tell us a little bit about your salon business. My understanding is
yeah,
you actually very uniquely, I don't have a lot of friends who has a salon business. Tell us a little bit
yeah,
about that business. How did you actually start that? Because you're in the public health. I guess
right.
doing nails is somewhat related with public health.
Right.
How did you kind of get in there? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was more because of an entrepreneur spirit I had. Like, I
Uh-huh.
think I was interested in real estate, but not just real estate. I was really interested in just being an entrepreneur and having
Hmm.
financial freedom. And so I've always thought about opening a business, opening some sort of business. And my sister, my oldest sister, I have two
Hmm.
sisters. My oldest sister, I actually helped her open a hair salon because she was a
Huh.
hairstylist. And
Yeah.
so, and at that time, I was only like 21, 22 years old when I helped her. I was still an
How did
undergrad.
you help her? Yeah.
I I helped her read the leases. She's a great stylist, but I'm more of the financial guru person. I
Hmm.
found properties for her. I told her like what kind of licenses she needed and so forth. So I was kind of like the behind the scenes person, just helping
Uh-huh.
her because she was my sister. And
Yeah.
so she ran a very successful hair salon. And at that time I was like, I'm a college graduate. I have a master's degree, but she was making way more money than me. And
Yeah.
I mean, I had a government job, making 65 grand, 70 grand a year at that time. But
Yeah.
and so I just looked at it and I was like, she didn't have a college degree, but she was making this much money. And I knew that I had to go that route to make all this
Yeah.
money and have this financial freedom. And so
Uh-huh.
she started a business, and she actually worked with my other sister, um,
Yeah.
the younger one. I'm the baby, and then we have
Yeah.
one in the middle. We have one in the
Yeah.
middle, and then the oldest. So the middle sister worked with her, and they worked with each other for a long time. But then
Yeah.
one day they had a fallout, and it's
Oh.
so bad when you work with family like that. And they
Yeah.
were in it, every day working together, and so they actually didn't get along anymore, and my middle sister got fired or let
Wow.
go from her job from my older sister. It's
Oh,
like family drama, but
fuels. Yeah.
yeah, um feuds. But I remember my sister laying on the floor in my house saying, what am I going to do? I have no more job. And she didn't know what she was going to do in terms of
Wait,
rent.
were
And
you
I
guys
told her,
all still living together in the same house?
no, 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 no.
Okay.
This was like maybe 5 years later. I had my
Okay.
own place. I had moved out. I had invested in
But she
houses
came
already.
over and she laid
And she
on your
came over
floor
to my
and
house.
yeah,
Yeah.
got it.
So I helped my oldest sister when I was an undergrad, still in college. And then she had her business for like 5, 8
Yeah,
years or so.
gotcha.
And then at that time I had, had a job and had different real estate properties, but I always
Uh-huh.
knew that I wanted to have this entrepreneur side as well. And so when my other sister, the middle sister, came to me saying like, what am I going to do? I told her, this is a great opportunity. Why don't you just go open up a business? I'll help
Yeah,
you. And at that time I had capital, and so I was kind of like her benefactor. And I told her, I'll open it up for you. You don't need to do anything. All you need to do is run the day-to-day operations, and I
right.
will take care of finding the space, all the books, all the licenses, everything. So I mean, and I had experience helping my older sister open up her hair salon, so I
Right.
wasn't afraid to do this. And I think that's kind
Mm.
of like the spirit in me. I've always taken risks, and I'm
Yeah.
always like, I'm very conservative in what I do, but then I also know that I have to pull the trigger sometimes and do it to,
Right.
because I don't want to think like, what if? So I
Yeah.
always take risks as well. And, I think because of that, we were able to be successful. So I helped her
Gotcha.
open the hair salon. We opened it up in December 2013. So it's over
Yeah.
6 years now since we've had the business, and it's doing very well. It's in
Yeah.
Capitol Hill. And so we have consistent um, income with that. And I never regret opening it at all. And I think it's actually helped me be a better business person.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you and your
Mhm.
sister were partners essentially.
Right.
And then would you want to share like kind of how you structured that partnership, given that your sister and the previous sister kind of got off the wrong foot? There's probably
Yeah.
some, I don't know if there's a lesson there that you probably got conversation from both sisters. It's actually a great situation where you have both sides of the coin.
Right.
And you kind of learn, did you like, what are the stuff that you kind of learned from like partnerships so that not to
Yeah.
repeat the same mistake, right?
Yeah.
And
I think what is different with me and my sister is I'm more of the books kind of person, the
mm,
financial person, and she's more of the operations person. So we have our own unique specialty.
yeah,
I'm a subject matter expert in what I do, and she's a subject matter expert in what she does. So I just let her
yeah,
do her thing, and I do my thing. And we just both have that trust level where we're like, the business is running great, and it's because we don't run into interference or anything like that. There aren't
yeah.
any conflicts with those kind of things. I take care of what I need to take care of, and she takes care of what she needs to take care of. And so initially when we structured it, it was a LLC where we're 50-50 partners on
Mhm.
it. We're a corporation now, but we still have that 50-50 partnership with
Partnership,
it.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So you put up the money. So going back to the other sister relationship, how come
Mm-hmm.
that didn't work out for them? Is it because they were kind of have the similar, like, why is it didn't work
So
out?
So
Yeah,
I think for them, it was not a partnership at all. It was more
yeah,
my sister being the owner, and
uh,
my second sister was employed by her. So
gotcha.
she actually worked for my sister,
I
whereas
see.
here we're equal partnerships in this
Mm,
one. And so we kind of respect each other in that way and work with
gotcha.
each other in that way. And I think personalities too. Um,
Yeah,
I'm more of a mediator type person, and I have a lot of
yeah,
patience. And
yeah,
so, I'm able to um, kind of be very flexible with things and so forth. And so we have a great relationship because we're able to work things out. Whereas I
yeah,
think, when you have a relationship where there could be other, there's hostility, or
yeah.
where one person
Ego.
is the boss of the
Yeah.
other, it makes it more for a more difficult situation.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
And so you set up your partnership as 50-50.
Hmm.
Did you put up the capital or you guys did 50-50 capital, like kind of share
I
that
put
way?
out I put out the
Yeah,
capital, and one good thing about it is, with this whole COVID situation and so forth, I've always been very conservative, so I always have reserves. So even
yeah.
though my the salon isn't open right now, we have reserves to hold us out
Hmm.
through the recession. So I feel that being in the last recession, I knew how things were, and I
Yeah.
was just more conservative with what I did. And with our business as well, we have very low overhead. It's a service industry, so we
Hmm.
don't have food spoilage. We don't have a lot of employees or anything like that.
Yeah.
Our lease rent is low. I make sure that we get a great location, but also,
Hmm.
we don't try to expand too fast as well.
Yeah.
So I'm able to really manage the costs, and I'm always looking for like ways to increase our net operating expenses. Kind of
Yeah.
like how we raise rents. We'll raise hair prices and so forth, but
Yeah.
still be competitive, and give them that quality haircut that they need.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like a rent comps, but you're like doing hair comps or something
Right, exactly.
over there. That's awesome. And so you're running this business. How many employees do you guys have? Or were your sister employee zero, like zero, and so she was doing nails, and then like how many employees do you have now?
Yeah, so we had one part-time employee, and
Mm-hmm.
that's part of the thing that I really wanted to make sure where we didn't try to scale up so fast.
Yeah.
I made sure that, let's take it slow and just get a part-time first person first and so forth. And so
Yeah.
I've always kept it that way because I feel that, um, you know, I think when you get too fast as well, getting additional employees as well, and
Mm,
if the income doesn't make sense for it, there's really no need to get
right.
additional employees, and there could be things that you can streamline and so forth. And, you don't necessarily need to get a full-time employee. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
get a part-time employee where they help you during the busy times, so our
Right.
weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays are where a lot of the clients come. And so we get a part-time person for that to take care of that.
Okay, that's very smart. And then as you kind of grow, so do you have like kind of some sort of formula to say, okay, now we have this amount of increase in revenue, so therefore we can kind of afford this part-time for this many hours, or so on and so
Yeah.
forth.
So I
Yeah.
always look at what the expenses are, and,
Mm,
I always you factor in lease and so forth and payroll, and I try to keep it at a third of our profits. So,
okay.
so I try to do it a third, and then whatever is left, 70% is split up between my sister and I.
Oh,
And
that's great.
and and part of my reserves are accounted in for that. Any
Mm,
tax payments that we may potentially have, that's all factored in. Um, any, let's say, an issue like this where we have to close our business, paying the
yeah.
lease for it, I factor all of that in. So
Mm,
our income isn't stable, and sometimes it doesn't rise. Like this month it has to go a little bit lower, but we have
mm-hmm.
reserves for all of that. And
Right.
so I'm always super conservative, and I think, even the real estate side of me, I'm
Mm-hmm.
really conservative, and that's how I think I've been able to be successful in those areas.